Hello, my name is Paula Godinez. Today is May 9th, 2020, and I am interviewing Cesar Lopez through Zoom for the UCSD Race and Oral History Project. Can you please state your full name, date of birth, and place of birth?
Sure. Good morning. My name is Cesar Lopez. My date of birth is August 23rd, 1974, and I was born in East LA, so East Los Angeles, California.
Thank you. So to start off, can you introduce yourself to me?
Sure. I'll start with where I come from. My parents are both from Mexico. My dad's from Mexico City, and my mom originally from Monterrey, Mexico. So they both immigrated to the United States in the 1960s. So that's where it all starts. Both of them met here in the United States, and I was born in 1974. They got married, a couple years before that, and lived in East Los Angeles. I was raised for the first couple of years of my life at a place called the William Mead Housing Projects, also known as Dogtown, near really close to downtown Los Angeles, to the Placito Olvera. Mm-hmm. And then around third grade or so, we moved out to the San Gabriel Valley. We moved out to a city, Rosemead, California, and from there, I have one sister, one brother, and we had a very multi-ethnic community, Latino and Asian, mainly growing up with kind of the white flight and the older white community moving out of those areas. Monterey Park, for instance, is right next to Rosemead, which is, there's studies and it's one of these places where it's seen as the book, The First Suburban Chinatown, right? We see the kind of the impact of the immigrant community kind of moving in and the backlash against that. So grew up in that context. I did my undergraduate work. I have a BA from USC in political science and English. And then I went on to graduate school at UC Berkeley in ethnic studies. And I have a master's degree and a PhD, which I completed in 2002. Since then, I've been, for a little bit, I was adjuncting in Los Angeles at different universities, Loyola Marymount University, Cal State Long Beach. I had a postdoctoral fellowship, a Mellon Fellowship at USC for a year. And then right at that point, I got my position or accepted position as a tenured track faculty for the Chicano and Chicana Studies Department at San Diego Mesa College. And I've been there ever since. So it's been 16 years now that I've been there. And I'm very happy and proud. And currently I'm the chair of the department.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing all of that. So I noticed you mentioned you moved from East LA to San Gabriel Valley. How was that transition for you, like when you moved?
It was amazing in the sense that my cousins, the cousins that we hung out with the most, lived a couple blocks away from the house that we were able to rent. So we went from living in the projects, an apartment, to living in a house with a yard. And it was, like I said, it was a period of transition in the late 80s and early 90s with the community becoming more Latino, more Asian. And so we rented the home for a couple of years, and then my parents were able to end up purchasing the house, which was also an amazing kind of reality or kind of a dream come true for my mom. And then my dad kind of went along with it. But part of how that happened was really quickly was the experience of my parents. My dad worked for the Coca-Cola company in downtown Los Angeles for many years, over 25 years. He was, he had a Teamster job, union, benefits. My mom was a Head Start teacher and aide. And, but along with all of that, these full-time jobs, my parents also did side jobs with selling food. We had a taco truck, catering truck, taco truck. And it was because of the work that they did on that, which was extremely hard work. So I'm very sympathetic and also kind of keep an eye on issues like the vending and street vending and different things happening in Los Angeles and now across the country, because that was the opportunity, the entrepreneurial opportunity that gave my parents the ability to buy a home where we lived. So a lot of hard work. Absolutely.
What was what was your relationship with your parents like?
Very good. I love my mom. My mom passed away in 1998.
Mhm.
Um, but my dad is still here, still with us, still going very strong.
Mhm.
And he was 10 years older than her. So it was, now I think, as an adult, in me in my 40s, I have a really, as they say, you kind of get perspective on life.
Mhm.
So I have a lot more perspective on the challenges that they faced. Like I said, the example of working a lot, not just full time, but working extra,
Mhm.
and and really the motivations that we have and the struggles we have. With perspective, we understand them better. But at the time, I was resistant to helping my parents, even though. We're like, oh, I don't want to go sell in the taco truck. I don't want to go sell churros, but we did. And looking back, it was important because it helped the family, and it was stressful and challenging, but I thank my parents for those experiences, and I appreciate them a lot, and I love them.
Thank you. So, what was your relationship with your siblings? I know you mentioned you have a few siblings.
Yeah. um and really good. I mean, I hung out with my brother. My brother's a year and a half older than me.
Mhm.
My sister is 6 years younger than me, so
Mhm.
I'm a middle child. So we played a lot together, we hung out together, and a lot of like sibling rivalry kind of stuff, especially in the like the preteens and the real early teenage years and all that. But we have a really good relationship, and we relied on each other a lot until we got into those ages of teenagers where you're kind of on your own, you want to do your own thing, and we all rebelled in our different ways. But we all have our strengths.
Mhm.
So I look to my brother for his strengths, and he looks to me and my sister. My sister is she's a social worker. She works for LA County Probation, and so she also went to USC and got her. She went through the community college as my brother did, as my mom did, and then she ended up at Santa Cruz, UC Santa Cruz, and then USC, and got her master's in social work. And my brother's had many different kind of jobs, managerial jobs, and things that he's done, and he continues to do. So we grew up having to support each other, and I think, like I said, looking back, I think we did a really good job of that in spite of the challenges of the family.
What were some of those family challenges that you speak of?
Well, like I said, a lot of it was just my parents were always working.
Mhm.
So as an immigrant family, the work ethic was very real, and the challenges of trying to once again, um, we rented and then we owned a home, always trying to get a little bit more for the family. Those were, I think, that's at the crux of it, especially when you're doing work like a taco truck or catering food. It's so much extra work. So it's hard for me to understand how my parents really did it, because we did it. It was like nonstop. So it was cooking. There was always food cooking in the house, and we could have whatever we wanted, but it was always for the truck. It was, and there
Mhm.
was a point where the taco truck and all that became very successful, like
Mhm.
almost for, like almost a year period, where my dad had friends who created what is called the Alameda Swap Meet, or the indoor Alameda Swap Meet in downtown Los Angeles. And right when it opened, today you can look it up, and it's like, it's a huge indoor swap meet. But when it just started, he was the only one who was selling food there. And so we kind of captured the market. And so we went from, kind of going to different spots in Los Angeles and in the county, to going just to this one spot, and it blew up really fast. So that's part of how my parents were able to buy our house, is with that extra money. But it was also a lot of extra work.
Mhm.
So it was a lot of stress. My parents, as in their relationship, was very stressful.
Mhm.
My mom, tried to do her teacher and work, and very local to the community where we live. And my dad, we're kind of working in downtown, and kind of, working overtime and different shifts. And it was the challenges of that, I think, that were specifically that kind of shaping our experience.
And I know the Alameda swap meet you're
Oh,
talking about. What was the name of your taco truck? Did y'all have a name by any chance?
you know, it had a lot of names.
Mhm.
One of them was Pulpo on Wheels.
Yeah.
That was one of the names. So when it shifted to more specific seafood,
Mhm.
you know, and I kind of went through a couple different iterations. Like one time, my dad, because he knew the one of the owners of Pollo Loco, like in East LA, and so it had a Pollo Loco kind of feel to it for a while, and then it just went straight like all kinds of Mexican food. Um, and so when we Alameda Swami was more of like it just went, you know, it was very all kinds of Mexican food, and we just did it was like overdrive. So yeah, so it's had different names, but the focus of the food is typically Mexican with kind of like different, like I said, different shifts with the times. Yeah.
What was your favorite food when you were
My favorite food.
or
I
dish?
would say just tacos. Yeah, carne asada tacos. Real simple. As a kid, today I appreciate it all. You know, I used to, you know, like I like all kinds of, you know, Mexican food and but yeah, I think as a kid growing up in the taco truck, it was always just, you know, give me a simple taco de asada. I like al pastor, you know, too. But it wasn't. But we served everything. You know, there was birria, there was menudo, there was
Yeah.
like I said, mariscos. It was all over the place, you know, trying to
Mhm.
capture Venice. And also we did aguas and we did churros. My dad even like baked churros or cooked churros, and we would sell them like a fresh basket, like a huge charola, you know, that we would sell. And that was our job kind of thing, or that kind of left, you know, was left to us to do. And so it was like, you know, like I said, there was moments a long time where just doing that was, it was the grind, you know, on my parents and the family and you know, as kids no one really wanted to be there, but we were there, and you know, we learned that we had to be resilient, you know, and as my dad says, we had to kind of be trucha in life. You know, you have to kind of just survive, you have to struggle, you have to make do what you got. And uh and so I think for me it helped me be focused and to have the resiliency that I needed to be successful in my life, especially in education. It really helped me, even though my parents and my dad had some elementary school in Mexico, but not much after that. And my mom, you know, she got her AA degree from the community college after over 10 years of attending. So it's, you know, yeah.
How would you describe your educational experience growing up?
Oh, you know, I was a nerd. I was, you know, I was the one that got the good grades.
Mm-hmm.
So I was always overappreciated, you know, and I for that I look back now and think in my family, to my brother and my sister, I think I was the one who got a little bit more spotlight
Mm-hmm.
because of that. Um, but I always liked school, and I was really, you know, I was pretty good at it. I wasn't the straight A student, but I was pretty good at it. And I think I was able to negotiate, you know, different elements of it, like leadership
Mm-hmm.
and and working, you know, working with others and things. I was through high school, I was in the journalism, and I was the editor in chief. And in college, you know, I went into college thinking I wanted to go to law school, you know, but part of that was just my perception of what, you know, what it meant to be an attorney and all that. And it wasn't until I got to the university that I made some very important um, had some very important experiences that helped to kind of guide me towards graduate school, PhD.
Mm-hmm. And what made you switch from law school to ethnic studies, right? You said?
hmm You know, the main thing was I had two key experiences. One was an internship with the Mexican American Legal Defense and Education Fund, MALDIF. So I wanted to see what civil rights law was about and working in that environment. So I did that for a semester during my freshman year at the university, and I liked it, but I wasn't quite convinced. I wanted to see a different form of it, a different aspect of law. So in the summer, I worked for an entertainment law firm. So I went to Century City in Los Angeles and worked for a small but, you know, a little significant entertainment law firm just to see how that was. You know, really the glitz and the glamour, the money, you know, And because of those experiences that I did complete, I realized the work wasn't for me. I didn't see myself doing 60, 70 hours of that kind of work every day, every week for the rest of my life. And so it was eye opening. Also, I realized as an undergrad that I really liked school. So I know I wanted to go to graduate school. I wanted to go to postgraduate. I wanted to get a master's or some kind of degree. And I was a political science and English major, so I applied to political science programs, and I also applied to the ethnic studies programs. And for me, it was when I visited UC Berkeley and I talked to some of the incoming cohort of students, and the faculty, and the vision that they had, and really understanding the depth of significance that ethnic studies at UC Berkeley in the Bay Area has had. Talking to people like Ronald Takaki, talking to people like Carlos Munoz, Mario Barrera. These were people that were kind of still teaching, kind of like semi-retired. Takaki was still teaching when I was there, and Evelyn Nakano Glenn, Michael Omi. These were the scholars that I started to like realize this is where I wanted to be. So it was that shift. It wasn't, and then it was what I tell my students. It was a leap of faith. I didn't know that, what it meant really to be a professor. I didn't have anyone. My family was a professor. I didn't have any of the social networks that some of my colleagues or my kids are going to have. But I took a leap of faith, and I said, I'm going to, turn my back to, the glitz and the glamour and the possibilities of, the field of law, and stick to what I really was feeling more and more closer to, and that was, PhD.
Now that you have step a greater foot into like your field and like becoming a professor, how does that make you feel?
Um,
Or what
I'm
are your
very grateful.
thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm very grateful to, like I said, I think where I come from, my family, my mom, my dad, my relatives, being Chicano, right?
Mhm.
I think all of those give me a sense of home, a place of beginnings, that I come from somewhere, and that I have those roots that are important to guiding my context. Um, but I'm also very proud. I'm
Mhm.
very proud of the fact that like I said, coming from somewhere, family, my foundations, and then that I represent something that I'm truly profoundly proud of, and that I uphold my sense of integrity and my sense of of why I'm doing this, in terms of
Mhm.
believing in the mission of the community college, believing in the role of higher education, believing in my students, believing in Chicano studies
Mhm.
and ethnic studies, and like nothing is perfect, but believing in that mission. So just wanted to.
What are some of the challenges that you faced? Yeah, some challenges you faced in the work you do.
You know, part of one of the challenges was getting just once again getting through each thing. Many times when you talk to people, when you talk to people that are somewhere that have reached a plateau of some kind, whatever in whatever field, sometimes they make it look really easy, like, oh wow, you look like you got it all together. But it's always the challenges behind the scenes, I think, that that we don't reflect on as much.
Mhm.
Like, for instance, one of the biggest challenges for me in grad school was when my mom passed away. It
Mhm.
was my second year of grad school, and I was away. I was in Berkeley, and my mom and family were in Rosemead down in LA. So that was a huge challenge, because it was a question of, do I pause?
Mhm.
What is my responsibility to my family? Um, and of course, just the loss of my mom. So
Mhm.
it was one of those things where, it was a moment to reflect and to say, well, what would, you kind of have to face why you're doing what you're doing,
Mhm.
right? Is it important enough? Does it matter? I think it was one of those kinds of moments, and just the grieving process. So I think, there's always, and there's reasons to stop or to pause along the way of the road. And not to say that you have to go straight, but one of the things that I was kind of determined to do was to finish.
Mhm.
So so that, I think for me, just finishing the graduate program, getting the doctorate degree, the way that I did was, was big. It was the challenge itself. In terms of the job, I was an adjunct, a freeway flyer, as we call them. Moving from different universities to colleges. Like I said, I taught at LMU, which is on the west side, and then Long Beach, Cal State Long Beach, and at USC as well in downtown for about 2 years, 2.5 years. So I was kind of moving around trying to get my bearing, and I think now that I look back, that was a really good experience, kind of interacting with different people and getting different advice from different colleagues and mentors. But it was also this kind of, it was the anticlimactic, like I have this degree, I've worked, with along with undergrad and graduate, over 10 years to get it, and where's the prize? Where's the tenure track job? Which is kind of more and more what I wanted. Um, and so it was part of that was just the patience and the resiliency and kind of having hope that things were going to work out. Once again, it's going back to the leap of faith, because there were some times that were pretty tight in terms of job opportunities. They kind of, they came in waves, which is typical. Like an opportunity comes and all of a sudden, it's like at LMU, I had a really great mentor, Dr. Edward Park, who was a teacher of mine as an undergrad. And Ed Park was a great mentor, because he took time out to talk to me about the nuances of being a professor, of being an educator, working with students, what, even the tone that you use, and what is the goal of, of your pedagogy, of your practice, of your assignments, and then connecting that to a larger tradition. If we're talking about ethnic studies, and in that case, it was the American Cultures program. I think that was called at LMU. So it was kind of like an American Studies kind of a broad program, but it really was. It had, they had Chicano studies, Asian American studies, African American studies. So I think the challenges are, all of that I experienced, not having working opportunities, thinking that that things are going to be open up, and then, like I said, in academia, it's all in waves. Sometimes there's hiring freezes, other times there's a lot of opportunity and things. So I think that's part of it. I did have the support of my wife. Like we worked together, and she was doing her thing in education, and so that was, I think, a key part of the support system that I had that helped me kind of get through those times as well. Um, so yeah.
Thank you for sharing all of that. What about rewards, you would say? Any rewards you get from like the work you do and like working in education?
Yeah. I mean, I got to say, number one is working with the students and being surprised every semester. Even right now in the pandemic, where we're at remote instruction, it's still a pleasure to talk to students, especially that are doing what, that I see myself in them in terms of trying to persevere, trying to figure out how can I hang in there? How do I address the realities of what's happening right in front of me, whether it's a job, a change, or family situation, or illness, or access to technology, something so basic that now it's not basic, it's mandatory, right, if you're going to continue as a student. So I think number one is that. It's also, I think being in a position that I'm at as a tenured faculty, and as a chair of a department, I recognize the privilege, I recognize the opportunities, and I'm thankful to all of that, all that came before me, the people that helped me get to where I'm at. This wasn't just me and my pretty face. It was so much of the advice and the counsel and the support and help from other people. So I'm thankful, and I recognize that. I'm so very proud of that. I think also working in where I am in the Chicano Studies department, it's a small department. It's always been a small department, but we were, along with a couple other departments, we were the first to be a Chicano Studies department, and one of the first at a community college. So I think that for Chicano Studies, it has a special history in that legacy of struggle and that legacy in academia, within Chicano Studies, within ethnic studies, especially who our founder was, Gracia Molina de Pic. who was a faculty at Mesa College in the 60s, helped to establish our department. She wrote the curriculum for the AA in Chicano Studies that's included in El Plan de Santa Barbara. She was, one of the key Chicana, Mexicana feminist activists of her time, of her period of the 60s and 70s and beyond. She left Mesa College to go get a tenure track position at UCSD. So she stayed local always and always involved. So for me, it was like coming into that position at Mesa College in Chicano Studies is actually something very, very important and very significant to me. I'm very proud of that.
Has there been any difficulties trying to maintain the Chicano Studies program?
Yes.
What were some?
Yeah, no, well, part of it is just the way that we are situated within the institution. And this is a story that, that happens and is a reality in different ways, but similar vein at all kinds of institutions where you have ethnic studies kind of related programs and departments. For us, we're a department of two. We were three, a department of two tenured faculty, and we have between 6 to 8 or 9 adjunct instructors that teach every semester. So we're a pretty busy department, but institutionally, we're on kind of low on the totem pole, if you will, of resources. When there are resources, it's always, always the political struggle and the institutional struggle to maintain those, to kind of stay ahead of the curve. Like, for instance, one example, specifically in this time of remote instruction, is Chicano Studies at Mesa College was one of the first departments to offer fully online classes at Mesa College in 2006. And I helped to create the first courses that we continue to teach, and we've been expanding ever since. Now, what that did is that put us on track to be better prepared for right now. We have all of our curriculum is ready to go online for distance education. And we have a lot of instructors that are very experienced at teaching, in an online, in a hybrid format. What I'm seeing across the campus, though, is a lot of challenges for other faculty and other programs that don't have those experiences, that maybe weren't as motivated to innovate early on, but we were. And I think that's part of Chicano Studies and ethnic studies is, I didn't come to Chicano Studies and to ethnic studies to hide in my office. I came there because I understood the struggle. I understood the ongoing battle, the institutional battle and political battle and community battle that it is to be in academia in that context. If I didn't want that, I would have, I got accepted to political science programs. I would have maybe went to history or something, English. I don't know. I mean, everyone has their struggles. Yeah. But I think the ones specific to Chicano Studies and ethnic studies programs are, they're so ongoing, and they're almost, they're repetitive. They come in cycles as well. So institutionally, the good thing is we've had leadership, administrative leadership that has been supportive over the years in different ways, right? And I think, from resources to technology to tools for teaching, to even the physical space. I mean, for a long time, Chicano Studies and Black Studies at Mesa College were housed in used World War II bungalows, right, for many decades. And it wasn't until the late 90s that finally, right, the momentum, the urgency, the money, the politics, everything kind of lined up so that we could be housed in a brand new building, which was a brand new building at the time, the G building, in the early 2000s. So, I mean, that's, almost 20 years ago now. And as a campus, we've built up our campus. It's Mesa College, beautifully rebuilt, right? If you haven't been there in a while, it's, fantastic new building, new facilities for our students, and for the community. So, so there's those struggles, so when I got to Mesa College in 2004, I walked into a brand new building with a brand new office and a brand new chair, and everything was brand new. I'm like, wow, this is great. This is the way it's always been. This is the way it should be. Especially when I visited the offices of my other colleagues on campus, because they were still in old buildings, and now they're all in new buildings that are more modern than the ones we're in, right? But but then, you have to kind of like take a step back, talk to the people that have been there for a while, the other faculty, talk to the community members as well, because Mesa has always had a link to community connection, our alums that are here in San Diego and that are very much supportive and interested in Chicano studies and ethnic studies, and learn about, the bungalows, right? Learn about the kind of the legacy of struggle, that is ever present. So, I pinch myself. I'm very happy and proud to be at a community college and to do the work I do, to be in a leadership position that I am, to have the opportunities that I have. But I also am very reflective of, the future. And I think about, well, this is what we've done in the past, and we got to keep it in our pocket because we may need to bring it out again, in terms of, expanding our links and our connections, or maintaining those with community, keeping in touch with students, with our MECHA and other groups on campus, and then kind of being a part of the institutional memory. I think that's a key part, especially for a small department, because we're often overlooked, right? We're kind of seen as there, and and I think we've had to transform our presence too, from the historic kind of celebratory and symbolic or even token representation on campus, like with events and things like that, to really expanding the kind of the intellectual place and space of Chicano studies, of ethnic studies, of Black studies on campus, to really kind of guide the educational mission, to help to mold it in the ways that we can.
Thank you. So now with the pandemic going on, how would you say your community, the community members you work with, or the work you do in general has been impacted?
Yeah. Well, a lot of it is grind to a halt. I mean, it has, because like I said, part of the work that we do, well, from number one is a class, right? And working with students, it's all gone remote. So there's more of a disconnect, right? Amongst colleagues, amongst the community, on, a campus community. So we're trying to just stay connected to our students. And that's a challenge, right? It's a challenge technologically. It's a challenge, dealing with the realities that students and community are facing, that some of the faculty and staff and admin are facing, all of that. But I think it's also the challenge of, for us as a department, like I said, us Black Studies, we take extraordinary steps to have a presence on campus that exemplifies our student work, that exemplifies our history, but also the rigorous and exciting intellectual traditions that we represent as interdisciplinary departments. And so every year we're having guest speakers for the campus. We, for instance, Chicano Studies, 10 years ago now, well, it's 9 years, will be 10 years, 9 years ago, we created the annual Gracia Molina de Pic Feminist Lecture Series. And UCSD has one as well. And they have one because just like us, just like them, Gracia donated, a nice chunk of money. She donated $80,000 to us. That's a Mesa College. I believe she donated a little bit more to UCSD. But so in honor of that, in honor of her legacy, we have these events, these annual events that we do. One of the big ones that we helped to establish just 3 years ago, and it took, there's a whole history to that, which I think I want to get into that right now. But I mean, 3 years ago, we helped to establish the Raza Grad on our campus, a cultural celebration focused on Chicano Latino students, community, families. And this year we can't have it. It's only been 3 years, and we were really looking forward. We've been planning all year, and I said, like I said, I think, and I say that because it's a very personal thing for the department, because unlike a university, we don't have the same infrastructure that, in terms of the bodies and the people power. A lot of the work that happens at the community colleges is, the labor of love of people sitting on extra committees and extra time to make sure that these things happen for our students and for our community. So I think part of it is, it's a challenge, because we're used to being very active. We're used to bringing in, like I said, expanding the role of education, expanding the meaning of that, even taking it out into the community. I mean, in the best traditions of ethnic studies and Chicano studies and Black studies, right? And I think sometimes my colleagues, some of them are great because they do go that extra mile, but a lot of times the rewards for that are not as clear for some. And so if there isn't the motivation for it, sometimes that work doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we're really feeling it. I think, like I said, not just for the reasons everyone else is, but also because we do every year try harder. We really do. And it shows, and I can say it proudly, not just boasting, but I can say it proudly. We have that record of doing that since we started.
So before concluding this interview, is there anything you would like to add that you would like covered?
I would just say that I think one thing I want to emphasize is that the Department of Chicano Studies at Mesa College is an important part of the history of ethnic studies programs in San Diego, in San Diego County, the state, and the nation. And I would go back to honoring and recognizing Gracia Molina de Pic as our founding faculty member, because she was a fierce scholar, an intellectual, an activist, feminista, and she was crossing boundaries and developing coalitions and working across different communities, since she started, like I said, in the 60s. And she has a long family history connected to the Mexican Revolution. And she's just such a wonderful person. She passed away this past year. And we honored her we did a campus event for her in August of last year. We also have a glass gallery that's dedicated in her name on campus. That's a permanent exhibition of the legacy of Chicano studies, of ethnic studies, and it's also a revolving gallery. And I say that because, and other people like Professor Cesar Gonzalez, who was our founding chair, who passed away also last year. So, I mean, we have this kind of changing of the guard, people from that generation that are now leaving us, but their legacy is strong. And I think I say that because too, I think sometimes, the community colleges kind of get left out of some of the scholarship. So I think it's important that if I say anything is, I think having that perspective, having that connection to the history is important, and that people realize that, and it's always been and always will be. It's the students connected to the faculty and staff, connected to the community, that will make the difference in terms of redefining education, challenging, what it is, what's the meaning, right? What are we doing? Why? Do work that matters, as Gloria Zaldúa would say. And also connecting it to the realities of our students, right? I think challenging them to get the AA in Chicano studies, for instance, to transfer or to develop life skills are important beyond just, the job or beyond the perception of what that is. I think we help to train, or to help educate people become, really well-rounded, critical thinking people, right? And that change our world, that improve our communities and keep us healthy. So with all of that, I that's my perspective on the work we do. And I think that the community colleges are essential, essential in the context of we accept everyone, and we are the community.
Thank you so much for everything, Sis. Our interview concludes with that question. Like I said, this work is used for such amazing things, and this will be archived in our UCSD library. And then the Refugee Teaching Institute might also use this interview because they're trying to establish like an ethnic studies curriculum at the high school level for students. And so we kind of wanted to look into like how faculty teaches ethnic studies, what are some of those challenges, and kind of to look more into that. So all of this is amazing. Thank you.
Can I tell you one last thing now you mentioned that?
Yeah, go ahead.
This past academic year and into this year, we started, Chicano Studies was invited to participate, and we asked to participate in the CCAP program, which is a program of teaching college level courses at the local high schools. And it's been at Mesa College since the 1960s. So we're now part of that program, and we've actually expanded into a couple of different high schools teaching Chicano studies courses, college level courses at the high schools. So that's something we're starting to work on and that we're expanding. And I think it's a great opportunity to kind of network out to the teachers and others at the high schools in terms of resources or curriculum, but also the social networks that need to develop to thicken to make sure that students continue right into higher education, whether it's community colleges or or any of the Cal State's UCs or any of the institutions. So that's something that we're starting to work even more on. And I think we are scheduled to teach one or two. I know in the fall, this coming fall at Kearney High School. We've been at Mission Bay High School. I know they requested a class at UC High.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think that's great work, and I think it's important work for
Mhm.
the future.
That's amazing. I work at San Diego High, and
Oh
some of the students there take Chicano studies from San Diego City College. Um,
yes,
I think
yeah.
that's super amazing. Like they do really enjoy these classes. When I'm talking to them, I'm like, "What's your favorite class of the day?" And they're like, "It's my community college class." Um, so I think that's super amazing.